Now let's talk about a common example of Enum. So till now, we have used a lot of system.debugs, right? And we use system.debug to display the values that are present in our variable. And we can also use this system.debug to display any kind of text that we want to print in the log. But inside this system.debug, we can also pass two values instead of one. So here you can see I'm passing two values which are separated by commas. And the first value can be the type of the log, because this is a log, right? It is printing in the console. So it is a log. And it is basically used for debugging. For example, let's say you're having some issue in your code and you want to check that what was the value of this particular variable when this whole code was executed. What you can do, you can check out this log because it will be printed in the console. So these statements will be printed each time when your code is executed. So what we can do, we can define different levels of logs. So we can define a logging level as none. We can define the level as error for error logs. We can define it as warn for warning logs. We can define it as info for information logs. And we can have values like debug, fine, finer, and finest. And these different type of logs are visible depending upon the logging level that you have set in your org. Let me show what do I mean by this. So what I can do here, I can go to my Salesforce org and I can go to setup, then developer console, and here I can go to debug. So if you see, we have an option debug here, and then I can go to change log levels. Now if you see, I have an option which is developer log here. I can click on add or change, and here in the Apex code, instead of debug, I can select any other option. So if you see, I'm getting a lot of options here. I'm getting none, I'm getting error, I'm getting warning, I'm getting info, debug, fine, finer, as well as finest. And what we have here, we also have all these options right here. So we have none, we have error, we have warn, info, debug, fine, finer, and finest. And by default, the value of this is debug. If you see, as of now, the value of this is debug. What this means? This means that whatever logs which are having a value as debug or less than debug, those logs will be displayed. So what we have level of logs from top to bottom. So in case I set the level as debug, then all the debug logs as well as all the logs which are having a level less than debug, those will be displayed. So we'll get the info logs as well, we'll get the warning logs as well, we'll get the error logs as well, which is why we are getting error, warn, info, and debug right here. However, what will happen if I set it as, for example, final? Then what should happen? All the logs up till final should be displayed, but the log which is having a value as finest should not be displayed. Let's try this out. So what I can do, I can change the Apex code log level to final here, and I can click on done. And here also I can click on done. Now, if I execute this whole code once again, so it is still coming till debug. Let me go back. So I can say change log levels, and the Apex code should be final. Done and done. So let me just verify this once. I think it's not taking effect. Yeah, now it's fine. It is coming as final right here. Okay. So let's execute this whole code. And if you see now, the logs are coming right here. So we have the error log, we have the warning log, we have the info log, we have the debug log, and we also have two more logs. Now we have the find log as well, and we also have the finder log, right? This means that these two logs are also coming right now because we have set the logging level as final. Similarly, if I set the logging level as error, let's say, then only this log will come because there is no log which is present behind this, right? Let's try this as well. So instead of final, I can say I want to set it as error, and then I can done. Click on done. Let me verify this once. So if I go here, change log levels, add or change, it is set to error, right? Let's execute the whole code. And now if you see, I'm getting only one log, and it is saying logging level set to error in this log. Logging level set to error in this log. So this means that all the logs which are having a logging level as error, which we have specified right here, and all the logs before that, or I can say which are having logging level below that, those logs will be displayed, and the rest of the logs will not be displayed. So these logs are very important when you want to understand that, what kind of logs we want to display and what kind of logs we want to hide. And the point to notice here is that I'm passing this logging level, which is nothing but an enum. So this is nothing but the data type, which is the enum name, that is logging level, and this is nothing but the value of the enum. It is similar to what we have defined right here, days of week dot Thursday. So this is logging level dot none. So this is nothing but enum that we have defined, or I can say that Salesforce has defined for us, that we can use to display our logs. So these are the situations, or I can say these are the conditions, or I can say these are the instances where enums can be used, because you want to pass a value, and the value should be one of these values, right? And there is no defined order as well. But based on your value, Salesforce is going to find out that what kind of log it has to display and what kind of log it has to hide. So these values we are passing while printing the logs, and these values are nothing but enums. So this is a real world example, or I can say a very good example of enum that we can see right here. So in these kind of scenarios, we can use enums where we want to use a value, or I can say want to specify a value out of a set of values, and those values don't have a particular order. So in this case, our code is also more readable, and it can easily be compared as well. So maybe, behind the scenes, Salesforce is also comparing like this, that if the value which is passed right here is equal to error or not. And if that is the case, it is showing these logs. So this is the example of enum that I wanted to show to you. And I hope this example was useful. So that's all for this tutorial. I'll see you next time.